So Hollis,
Yes.
what's your newest hobby, bro?
So I went golfing today.
You went today?
I did. Yes.
Did you actually?
I did go today, literally right before.
Are you good?
this. No, not at all. But everyone tells me, especially my roommate, Hollis, you will regret it for the rest of your life if you don't get good at golf.
Whoa.
Is this true?
I mean, I'm not old enough to say, but I don't regret it right now.
Do you golf?
I feel great about not golfing.
Yes, sir.
But you see all these old great people just golfing all
That's why we
the
have
time.
pickleball now. We don't need golf.
Are you going to pickleball?
Yeah. Sounds crazy at pickleball, bro.
Talon just got called out.
I will be when I'm an old man. I will be.
Crazy. Welcome to This is Kingdom. This is Grace.
This is Talon.
This is TJ.
This is Hollis.
And this week we're talking about miracles, angels, and priesthood power by Elder Shayne M. Bowen.
And we were just talking about this talk right before this and how kind of a wild talk this was. He kind of opens this talk very much like this is what this talk is about, and it's really powerful. He says, many today say that miracles no longer exist, that angels are fictional, and that the heavens are closed. I testify that miracles have not ceased. Angels are among us, and the heavens are truly open. And I love how confident he is when he says that. And guys, actually, this reminds me of a story in college when I was taking Finance 201. And it's one of those classes at BYU where there's 700 people. And the professor for this class literally took pre-workout before every single class. And 3/4 through the class, he would come in with a spiritual thought and then get right back into it. And this time...
That's wild in finance.
Yeah, it's finance. I'm like, that's awesome. And the spiritual thought for this day, I've always remembered. He looks at all of us and says, if you've served a mission before, raise your hand. And a bunch of people raise their hand. And he says, now a lot of you have been a couple years off the mission. And if you are still drawing from your spiritual experiences on your mission, and that is all you have in your spiritual bank, you might be doing something wrong. We can be modern day miracle makers. And I was taken back a little bit. I was like, whoa. But I kind of found some truth in what he was saying, because I feel like sometimes I view the scriptures like that too. I'm like, why are all these miracles happening in the scriptures that seem so big? Right? And I feel like sometimes we can come home from big spiritual experiences or mission and look to those and say to ourselves, but that can't happen in my normal life. Right? And I feel like we compare miracles all the time, whether it's to our missions, to our childhood, to maybe the miracles that happened when Jesus was here, maybe the miracles that happen in the scriptures. But as I've learned and as I've grown, I feel like it's less about what the miracle was, but more about how that event drew you to Christ. And it's cool, the definition of a miracle is literally a manifestation of God in the world. And I think that's much more than specific events, but that's everything that draws you closer to Christ. It's evidence of God in the world. And what's really cool is I'm going to say this quote and y'all got to guess who said it because it's going to shock you. And who says this?
This is a wild game.
And who says this quote is, there are two ways to live life. One in where everything is a miracle and the other where everything is not.
Kung Fu Panda.
Wow. Great
That's-
guess.
that's
Winston Churchill.
Not Winston. Tal, what's your guess?
I'm guessing George Bush. I don't know. I don't know. He made it seem like it was something we wouldn't expect. So.
True.
That's true. Maybe I should have done that. But it was Albert Einstein.
Oh, yeah.
Which I actually love. And I love having that quote in my mind and living that philosophy that every day waking up and expecting everything to be a miracle. And I feel like taking that mindset this past week has literally changed so much for me, guys. I feel like waking up and knowing that everything I'm experiencing that day is a miracle. I feel like I felt so much more gratitude in my heart. I felt so much happiness in my soul. I felt so much more love for the people around me because I was looking at everything as a miracle. And I wanted to talk about this with you guys of how all of you expect miracles now and how we can see those in our life. Because sometimes I feel like it's really hard sometimes to hear these stories in general conference or sometimes hear these stories in the scriptures and be like, can those miracles really happen in my own life?
I love that, Hollis. In my class, sometimes the students will write down how they saw God in their life, And it's so funny because I don't know if it's just like the high school teenager thing. It was probably totally me, but they'll share this crazy thing, but to them, they're like, they don't really hype it up that much, you know? And so I just remember this one girl was like, yeah, you know, I brought my dad to church after a few years and he hasn't been for a while. And you know, I felt pretty good about that. I feel like God helped me in that. And I lost my mind, bro. I was like, what? Are you kidding? And everyone's like, yeah. I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, let's give her a hand. Let's stand up. Let's sing and dance. And, you know, because it's like, man, God is working in our lives. And I feel like there's so much value in just getting hyped about it. You know what I mean? Like, don't downplay the miracles, even if it seems small, even if it's not someone being brought back from the dead, like he shares in his talk. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like this is so much value in seeing God in a simple or profound way and getting excited about it, not being afraid to share and not downplaying it, you know?
Yeah. And I would also say don't downplay the miracles and don't downplay God. I don't know why this is on my mind right now, and it might not make any sense, but I'm going to share it. So here we go. I met this kid. We were having dinner, and I found out he was a state champion yo-yoer. And I was like, what can you do if you're a state champion yo-yoer? But then he had a yo-yo and he started going crazy. I was like, holy, like I did not know you could do that much with a yo-yo. And then I had this other friend that like I'd been friends with him for just a little bit, but then I found out he could sing and I started like stalking his Instagram and I watched this video that he sang. It literally made me cry. I'm like, I didn't know you could do that with your voice. Like both of these situations, I was mind blown with what they were actually capable of. And so when I say don't downplay God, I wonder if we will get to this point in our life, or maybe if we'll meet God one day and be like, holy, I didn't know you could do that much. I didn't know you were capable of that. And I wonder if we live our life downplaying what he actually can do. And when I read this talk, I'm just like, maybe God's a lot bigger than I think. Maybe he's a lot more capable. Maybe he's a lot more willing to do crazy cool things in my life if I'll invite him to do those things in my life.
My best friend, her name's Allie, and Talon knows this. I've never met anyone that believes bigger than Allie. Ever in my entire life.
Are you going to talk about summer sales? Please
Yes,
do.
yes,
Oh my
yes.
goodness. This is my favorite thing about Allie.
Literally, I have never met anyone that believes God can do miraculous things like Allie. And truly, if anyone was going to part a sea on earth today, I would bet my money that it would be Allie because that's the way she sees God. She looks at God. Her God is so much more miraculous and big than even I could ever dream of. And she allows him to be miraculous in every aspect of her life. Last summer, she got like tricked into doing summer sales, and she is not a salesperson. And Talon can attest, he knows her.
This is
she
true.
is like not born to be a sales girl. Like it's just not in her nature. She's just happy-go-lucky type of girl. And she like started her first week, and it was like, okay. Like it was like not like anything. Like it wasn't great. Like it was just kind of there. And like even like I would talk to people and they're like, maybe she should stop. Like maybe she should give up and like get a different job for the summer. Like this might not be the move for Allie. And then one day I was out of town and she like, it was her first Saturday of doing summer sales. And she texts me and she says, I'm going to sell more than I ever have today. And I said, yes, you are. I said, yes, you are. Why? How? And she says, because I fasted and I prayed and I know that God's going to give every sale to me today. And legit, you guys, like she knocked on a door and it was like this guy that opened up the door and she like sold him in 3 seconds. He was like, oh, I've been wanting to get pest control. And she's like, perfect, I sell it. And she's like, great. And then he's like, yeah, and I own all 10 of these houses on this street and I'll get pest control for all 10 of these houses too. Like people would ask her for like cells. And she got like the most cells. Like she got like 11 cells in that day, which was crazy. Like it was unreal. Like no one even could believe that it was possible. And it happened to her all summer. And no one could believe it. They were like, why are you good? And she's like, no, I'm not good at sales. Like I'm not good at being a salesman. But God is so big that he's just giving me miracles day after day after day. And the truth is, Allie lives her life like that. Not just for sales, but in every aspect of her life. She just goes into it and she says, anything's impossible because the God I believe in makes anything possible. You know?
Oh, it's so good. It's to me, it's the Brother Jared mindset, right? They confuse all of the languages, and Brother Jared goes to God. He's like, hey, could you not confuse my family's language? And God's like, yeah, I got you, right? And he's like, hey, but what about my friends? Can you not confuse my friends' language either? And God's like, yeah, I got you. And then this is what I love about the brother of Jared. He goes to God and he says, hey, can you lead us to a land like choice above all other lands? Like, can you lead us to the best place ever? And God's like, yeah, I can do that. And I love that the brother of Jared asks big and God gives big. And I think sometimes we are the ones that put the biggest limits on what God is able to do in our lives.
I'm just it's just reminding me of in the Bible dictionary about prayer. You know what I mean? Like God has these blessings, he has these miracles he's ready to give you, but they're conditional upon us asking. And I love Lo, she's such a good example of this. We're in this cute little basement right when we got married and Lo was pregnant with him there. And it was a cute little basement and it was cool, but man, just deep down, we were like, man, we need some more light. We need some more space. Like it's kind of down, especially in the long winter and everything. And Lo had studied that in the Bible dictionary. She's like, man, we need to pray bigger. We need to ask, we need to do some big asks. You know what I mean? Like he can deliver if we just ask. And we knelt down and we prayed and we're like, Heavenly Father, like you just give us this big old house, you know, like, and it's kind of like uncomfortable at first. And I think there's a balance, you know what I mean? But we just prayed. We're like, can we have some more light? Can we get into a place that really makes more sense for us and everything? And a few months down the road, we're on Facebook Marketplace just because Lo had a feeling, you know what I mean? And the first place that we found down in where we live now, and it's not like a mansion, it's not some huge house, you know what I'm saying? But it's more light, like it's exactly what we needed. It's more space. And I firmly believe it's because we had the courage and the faith to ask God of a big thing and he delivered for us. And I think there's totally a space because a lot of times when miracles come up, we want to go to, okay, but let's be ready for if the miracle doesn't happen. And that's amazing. Yeah, like there's totally. Such a special space for that. And we need that, but don't let that have us downplay God or limit him. Don't let that stop us from asking big things from him because he'll deliver.
I just think that we cannot let disappointment get in the way of us believing big. And I think so often we're so afraid of being disappointed by God that we do not give him the opportunity to blow us away with miracles. And I think if we opened up our eyes and said, you know what? Yeah, there's room for disappointment, but that doesn't stop me from asking for something miraculous. I was just telling them, like, I had one of the most beautiful prayers I've ever had in my entire life last night. And it was like one that like I never wanted to stop talking to God. And it was the first time I like got down on my knees next to my bed. And when I closed my eyes, I imagined myself in the throne room of God. And what would I say to the King of Kings? And as I got like knelt down, the language I spoke to him changed. But even more than that, I realized that when I was imagining myself in the throne room, I started asking for things that I had never before asked for because I started realizing that we believe in a God that can make even our wildest, most incredible dreams come true. That we can ask of miracles that seem absolutely out of this world. And the King of Kings, the God we believe in, can look down and say, I'm capable of that. Impossible can be made possible because I am your king and I can do anything.
I love that. Live in a way where God can give you everything. Live in your way where everything is a miracle. Sometimes it looks like it just depends on us asking for it.
Jesus walked upon the water. He stilled the storm and calmed the angry sea. With his hands he healed the leper. He made the lame to walk and blind to see. He fed 1,000 people with a loaf or two of bread. And when the ruler's daughter died, he raised her from the dead. Jesus is a God of miracles.
Come on.
Nothing is at all impossible to him. I know this of all his miracles, the most incredible must be the miracle that rescues me.
TJ, my grandma used to sing that to me when I was a kid.
Oh, your grandma?
Yeah, see you next week.